gotta tell somebody.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
That. Let's talk about that.
You need this. Listen to this.
Memorable and exciting.
Well, then be less boring.
I'm going to tell everyone. Wait here.
Mighty remarkable, Big Daddy.
Remarkable.
Welcome to Remarkable, a podcast for B2B marketers that deconstructs the most iconic moments in film, television, pop culture, and advertising for a single purpose: to give you, the B2B marketer, the same storytelling techniques that the pros use. In each episode, you will learn techniques from Hollywood, Pixar, Marvel, and beyond, from Spielberg's hands to yours, bringing remarkable content ideas to you every single week. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. This is Remarkable. This week, we're talking marketing lessons from Martha, the Martha Stewart documentary.
What does it mean to be the first female self-made billionaire in American history?
With the CMO of CHEQ, Amy Holtzman. Amy, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Wonderful to have you on the show. Gosh, what better to talk about than Martha Stewart, one of the great marketers of our day, and you were a documentary lover, which is also exciting. So we'll get into that, and of course, marketing at CHEQ. So why the heck did you pick Martha to talk about today?
Oh man, when you guys asked me some of my interests, I immediately said I'm pretty boring. Outside of work, all I do is watch documentaries, which is the truth. And then I think I just watched the Martha one and we got to talking about it. And we talked about how she is a pretty remarkable marketer and just like businesswoman. And so it made sense.
And I want to know why you love documentaries so much and what makes a good one. But first, tell us a little bit about your role as CMO at CHEQ.
Yeah. So I've been here a little bit over 2 years. I have to say I love it. It's been great. We sit at this really unique intersection between marketing and cybersecurity, and we help businesses interact and transact safely and securely online. And we also help marketers reduce a ton of waste and make their marketing metrics much more clean and eliminate fake users from forms and things like that. And I have to say, when I first started at CHEQ a little over 2 years ago, there was really low awareness of our problem unless you had some kind of attack or data breach. And now with the rise of all things AI and automated traffic, everyone has a problem and has woken up to like, what do I need to do to understand this rise in automated traffic and bots and whatnot? And so it's been a really interesting and exciting journey here from like incredibly low awareness to very high, I have a problem awareness today. And then, of course, at CHEQ, I lead all things marketing, which includes demand gen, customer marketing, brand creative, product marketing, events, and then get pretty involved across our entire go-to-market.
We're going to learn a lot more about that marketing later in the episode. Before we get to Meredith, for some background on Martha, I want to know, what do you think makes a great documentary? What do you love in a doc?
Oh, that's a great question. I honestly could watch just about any documentary, which drives my husband insane because he does not think that many are interesting. I don't know. I just feel like real life is, often a lot more interesting than fiction. It's crazy kind of the different experiences people have, ideas they have, crimes they commit. And I don't know. I just love learning about it, right? I don't know if there's like any one thing I can put my finger on. I really could watch just about any documentary.
It's like you're the best person to ask, but also the worst person to ask because You love documentaries, but you love all documentaries. So it's like...
Right. I just watched both the Jerry Springer documentary, which was incredible, high drama, insane. They put some of that stuff on TV, wild what they did. And then I also just watched like the Katharine Graham documentary on, leading the Washington Post for so long, and super different stories, but I loved them both.
Meredith, what the heck is Martha?
The first thing that I want to say is that you can really say that Martha Stewart isn't entirely happy with Martha, which is a documentary about her life.
That is Meredith O'Neill, our amazing producer extraordinaire.
She told the New York Times the second half of it was, quote, a bit lazy. She apparently spent a half hour listing the things she didn't like about it, specifically how filmmaker R.J. Cutler handled her story.
Which, by the way, Meredith, I got to jump in, is so fantastic. As a teaser for this episode, because you're like, why doesn't she like it? So it kind of makes you want to watch it more. But gosh, it's like, is she 401 level sort of, manipulating us? I shouldn't say manipulating, marketing to us by being like, oh, I hate it. And then, oh no, of course not. But she does know how to spin a tale. And I think it also fits with her being, her life of being, misunderstood, misrepresented, persecuted, prosecuted, all that stuff where, she feels like people keep getting her wrong. And then, this documentary comes out, she's like, got me wrong. That's just she's iconic. It's just the best.
But I also feel like, especially as a female leader, we are our own worst enemy all of the time. Like, we're our toughest critic, right? She's her toughest critic on herself too. Like, she doesn't like the way she showed up in part of it too. And some of it was less about how they portrayed her, more that they decided to include certain things that she saw as imperfections.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, like, she doesn't bring up the fact that they covered her incarceration, her trial and all of that. Her gripe with it was, she said, those last scenes with me looking like a lonely old lady walking hunched over in the garden, boy, I told him to get rid of those and he refused. I hate those last scenes. Hate them.
Also, not even her yelling at the staff and stuff sometimes behind the scenes. That wasn't what she had an issue with. How she looked.
I think she literally called one of them stupid or something like that. I'm like, ooh, that was
okay to air. Just not me looking lonely.
Yeah, exactly. So she did tell the actual filmmaker, RJ Cutler, that she wasn't happy with it, right? And RJ came back and responded to her. He told Matt Belloni, which, by the way, great last name, told Matt Belloni on his podcast, The Town, that he said, Martha saw the film and she told me what she thought about it. It wasn't surprising to me that she would have made a different film than I made. She gave me her feedback and she was upset that I didn't make the changes that she wanted to make, but this is the process. And when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, to stand up to Martha Stewart like that about a film about her own life, you got to be a really strong person. Also, just really believe in the product that you're making, in the content that you're making. And he added,
also, how did she sign that contract?
Right. I know, right? She had to be very trusting, I feel like, but also I don't know. At what point do you give in? At what point do you hold your ground? I feel like that must have been really hard. But RJ added it's very, very hard to be a subject in one of these films and to look at it with any sort of objectivity. And so this is a process. I understand you have to be empathetic to the subject, but that doesn't mean that she's in control of the movie. And so I think this push and pull is really interesting. And it does have to be super hard to be objective about your own story and to kind of let go of the reins a little bit. But to tell you more about what the documentary is about, it tells the story of Martha's life, which is what a documentary is. And so it talks about her upbringing, her teenage modeling. She worked on Wall Street as a stockbroker, which I didn't know. There's a lot of things I didn't know about her that I learned through this. And also about just her creating a name for herself as this lifestyle icon and influencer.
There is no media personality, businesswoman, celebrity chef like her. She was sort of an original influencer.
But it also covers the darker side of her story too, her prison scandal, like I mentioned, her divorce, her strained relationship with her daughter, and more.
Martha Stewart is among those under investigation for suspected insider trading.
Martha Stewart is being prosecuted not because of who she is, but because of what she did.
And to make the documentary, RJ Cutler was given access, Martha gave him access to these never before seen photos, letters, diary entries, which are really, really revealing. And then he also has intimate and candid interviews with Martha about her life. And there's a lot that I learned about her from the documentary that I couldn't have just looked up about her, which was super cool. And so there's this sense that you're getting exclusive information about her. And I will say that before watching the movie, I wasn't really that interested in Martha Stewart. I thought she was interesting. I had really started to like her because of her sort of unlikely real friendship with Snoop Dogg, and seeing them going around the Paris Olympics together, all dressed up, was really funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, my special guest, the lovely, the gracious Martha Stewart.
Bonjour. Put your napkin on your lap. You have that beautiful white suit and you don't want to drop anything on it. These are canapé.
I thought that was Jell-O brand pudding or duck liver.
But so learning more about her, sort of her reinvention and ownership over the darker parts of her life make me appreciate her like so much more as both like a cultural icon, but then also this real person who's like not sort of a picture perfect homemaker. And so I was really surprised with like just how open and honest she was in her answers to RJ Cutler. Especially like she talks about her own infidelity and her dislike of a particular reporter. She was like,
those were two of the funniest parts.
Oh my God. When she's like, thank God she's dead or something like that. Like that was,
yeah.
Do you remember that part?
Also, the woman isn't dead.
Yeah, right. She came back and she was like, I'm still here. But it was just such a like cutthroat, like,
and
oh
also,
my God.
When she talked about her husband's cheating, and then the reporter said, well, weren't you unfaithful at first? And she was like, yeah, but that was nothing.
I know. I was like, her kissing some guy in like the middle of this chapel, I forget where she was, but on her honeymoon.
Incredible.
Yeah. Oh, like the double standard.
I have to also say though, like I at first was like, Martha, I'll put it on like as I'm doing chores and stuff over the weekend. And then this is what I love about documentaries. Like it's fascinating, like really who people are and the access that they give, right?
Yes.
But I think, I don't know, I'm here for this era of Martha. The Martha of the 80s, 90s, like that was just the extreme perfectionist.
She was preposterously perfect. Perfect little pattern.
Perfect. I mean, this one still is too, but I think less authentic, right? Like this one feels way more authentic. I love it. I'm here for this one.
Me too. And I think the thing too is like, if you think about being like a woman and a leader, you could be seen as like very cutthroat and kind of a B-word, but you kind of like need to be that to succeed. And like,
you have to own it. You have to own it too. And she does.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think like when all's said and done, like, I mean, one, I really enjoyed the documentary. So thank you for getting me to watch it.
We have a dozen more to watch this weekend.
Yeah, please. But I think too, it's interesting that like, all in all, like Martha did give a lot of positive things about the documentary in the end too. The one thing that she said that was interesting was she said young women have told her that watching it gave them a strength they didn't know they had. She said, that's what I wanted the documentary to be. It shouldn't be me boasting about inner strength and any of that crap. It should be about showing that you can get through life and still be yourself.
I don't like that word reinvention because I'm not reinventing myself. I am still the same flesh and blood. I have this, the same color eyes I had before. I have the same skin and hair. So it's not reinventing, but it is evolving. And with evolution, change comes. People think, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to change. I don't think I can take this step and change in that direction. But once you do it, it gets more and more interesting.
And so I feel like all of that, like, all that said, like there are many, many lessons I feel like I could take from this when it comes to content, which is like tell you and your customer's story, include the good and the bad, especially when it's about you. Try to make it objective if you can. Take control of your content, do what you think is best. And then I think giving viewers an inside view into your topic, like info they can't find anywhere else, is really important as well. But I'm wondering, Amy, sort of what you saw parallels with content marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few, like with content marketing and marketing in general, right? And also just leadership in general, right? Like, I think one of the things is you're going to get knocked down and told no a lot, and bad stuff that you don't like is going to happen. Hopefully you're not going to go to prison, Martha, but like, you got to show up the next day. You have to kind of do it all in stride. Like if you want to make it, right, and make a name for yourself and for your business, you kind of have to just roll with the punches and figure out how you get through it. And I think it's a lesson for everybody, right? Like I think not just about her prison sentence, but I think one of the things she has really strong conviction and confidence in her ideas, right?
I mean, people are showing a lot of love for your documentary on Netflix. Are you surprised at how fascinated people are with this?
No, I think women really need that kind of straight talk.
Yes.
And I straight talked.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
It is the only way that she made herself a publishing mogul, and she's reinvented herself a whole bunch of times. Like she was the innovator of the women's magazine. Like, she came before Oprah or anybody else. And I don't know how many publishing houses told her no. That's hard, right? But what she didn't do was like give up on her idea. She knew she had something and she was super confident in it. And she shopped it around and figured out how to make it work. And she made it a huge empire. And I think it's a lesson for all of us, right? Like, not every idea is a great one, but I think every day in business, we have strong convictions around certain things. And a lot of times we know this feels really special, right? And then somebody will tell you no in a meeting, or somebody will, the first salesperson or whoever in your company will say like, I'm not sure about that. And then you feel like it's less than. And I think, when you have those really strong convictions, I think it's important you kind of follow your gut sometimes and know when to say when it's not working. But I also think a lot of times we give up on great ideas like way too early because somebody told us no. I think also you got to own what makes you special and unique, right? Martha's an unapologetic perfectionist. She insists on things being her way. I think to your point, a lot of times women can get, in business can get negative feedback about that. And Martha owns it. And it's what made her successful, right? And I think you have to not necessarily own Martha's style, but you have to own your own style, right? It's hard to change. You can adapt in certain situations, but you're not going to change who you are. And I do think, I think you've got to own it. You got to own your own unique style. And sometimes that's not what everybody loves, but it's also what makes you and also your brand special and unique, right? And I think there's so much we can learn from her, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, her as a person, as you mentioned, I think that she completely sort of rebranded, obviously, because she sort of had to, because she went to jail.
Times, not just even then. Stockbroker to domestic goddess to many times.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But everybody knew her as one thing, and then she had to really come out of that. And there's just another world where she's just never relevant ever again. And then you see her hanging out with Snoop Dogg.
You want green brownies?
Yes.
He wants green brownies.
Greener, the better.
Greener, the better. 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of flour. Pour that into here. And then I'm going to sprinkle.
Light green.
And
this
you have
is
light
beautiful.
green.
Okay, that's light green.
And for everyone who was raised, of a certain age, and you're like, what? This is, if you had been in 1997, your mind would have been, blown, right, seeing those two hanging out, being pals. But now it's they're, one of the coolest people ever, and someone who was, something
genuine.
Yeah, represented something completely different. So I think that there's, a marketing lesson there in the fact that my first marketing lesson for this is you can borrow people's cool. Yeah. And it's I'm not saying that that's one of the things. I'm giving Martha all the credit, but she goes and starts hanging out with Snoop Dogg, and that went viral. People talked about it. It got discussed online. That's something that I think is just oh, she's back and she hangs out with Snoop. Why, right? There's a lot of brands, especially B2B companies, that always feel boring or feel they need to reinvent themselves, or now AI is coming, so they need to figure out a way to be cool or to be relevant. And you really can borrow cool, If you're hanging out with the cool kids, you might not feel very cool, but to other people, you might be. And I think that's a great lesson.
Yeah, she figured out influencer marketing before any of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
She figured out how to associate herself with cool and in a completely new generation.
Yeah. The other thing that from a storytelling perspective, covering someone like that on the other side, one of my lessons here is that there's a great piece that Malcolm Gladwell did on Ron Popeil, where he did essentially a biography on him, and he talks about it in his podcast, and it's great. And basically at the end of it, Ron didn't like it or dislike it, but he essentially was yeah, that's that's how it is, right? And I think it's interesting as sort of the biographer, as the marketing. If you think of yourself as the documentarian or a biographer for your team or for your company or for your executive team or whatever it is, I think that it's worth looking at what would be the things that you talk about that actually would make that person, not like it. What are the things that they actually wouldn't enjoy to quote unquote get out there? If your CEO does this, or, if your CEO does that, if your CEO always misses their kids' baseball games, And she, she maybe would not want that to get out, or maybe she would, because she's like, oh, I'm such a badass that, work comes first. So I think it's important to sort of think through all of the things that, would be told. And if you were really doing a documentary, you would probably want to, get a full picture of this person. But we really shy away from that stuff when we're telling B2B stories, because we're so linear in the way that we think about things. We never want to do anything but tell the product's features and benefits. But it's like to embrace the whole person and to think of the stuff that they would want people to know or not, I think is really important. And like sometimes like it is, oh, this person, I met the CIO one time and he was like, I coached every single one of every one of my kids' teams. I never missed a game. That was like his like claim to fame. And I'm like, that's not on his website. That's not on the company's website. That's not anywhere where you could get a sense of this person. But I was like, that's pretty darn endearing. And he's the CIO of a multi-billion-dollar public company. Maybe that should be in his story a little bit more, or something like that. Or maybe it shouldn't. But it's like sort of up to you to decide those things. And I think you need to like think about it a little bit more holistically.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like as humans, we like crave connection and like look for commonalities, right? And I think people shy away from it in B2B a lot of times because they're worried, what if somebody doesn't like that thing or doesn't have the same value that I have? I mean, to your point, like we need to think about what those things are that we share, but also I think there's room to be ourselves and be authentic, like Martha, a bit more too, because as humans, I think that's what we want, right? And we can also kind of sniff bullshit a mile away, right? Like when somebody's not who they are, who they say they are. So I think there's room for a bit more.
Yeah, it's really tough to tell those type of stories and to let people, in. But the thing is, like, that's what journalists used to, I shouldn't say used to, still do, but, used to do a lot more of, which is like, hey, I'm going to spend 5 days with Amy, and then I'm going to write, a 5,000 word piece about Amy. Now, what we do on the marketing side of things, so not from a journalistic standpoint, but from a content standpoint, is I'm going to spend an hour with the CEO and I'm going to ask them a bunch of questions and hope that I sort of get enough time. And I think that like the Martha documentary is great, just like every documentary that's great, is because they spent the time to do it, right? It's like you have to get all the other stuff into the story, you know what I mean? And to tell it in a fixed amount of time, right? To not say I'm going to spend 20 hours, doing this. I'm going to tell the story in an hour, or I'm going to tell, in 30 minutes or 10 minutes or 60 seconds or whatever. But anyways, I think that it's important to sort of like give yourself those constraints to say, like, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And it might not be documentary length, but like give yourself enough time to actually create something meaningful rather than just like get it out.
I also think along those lines, right? Like, I think that's why longevity as a marketer can matter a bit, right? Like the longer that you're at a company and you spend time with your leadership team, your CEO, like you really start to learn the DNA of the company and the behind the scenes of the rest of your leadership team. And some of that learning and like just discovery is hard to do in any kind of an accelerated timeline, right? Like they may not feel comfortable sharing, or they may not even think it's that interesting, right? Like you just stumble into it over time and you start to also learn the real like fabric and DNA of a company. And I think when you start to get some longevity at a company and with your leadership team, like the interesting stories start to become a little bit easier too, right? Like, because you have them in your memory and can go back to them, and you don't always just have to sit down and try to get everything in a rush, which is never going to happen.
Yeah, it's really not. My final piece here that I think is important too, this is very obvious and maybe even a little self-serving, but Martha was shot beautifully with a camera, video, she was not literally shot, for so long and for so long in her life, and always cared about her appearance. Obviously, she's a beautiful person, so that helps. But like so many times that we got just so many impressions on Martha over the years with like all the cookbooks and and the coffee table books and all the magazines that you saw. But like high quality photography and video for years and years and years of all of our lives, that when she comes back into our life, it's like I could draw a photo from memory of what Martha Stewart looks like. And I think that that's like kind of an important lesson in this whole thing. Like it does, you compare, I'm trying to think of, someone else who would be a contemporary where you didn't get that, maybe like Ina Gardner or Betty Crocker, for example. I don't know what Betty Crocker looks like. And, or was it Julia Child?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know what she looks like. And I think that like, it's just an important reminder that like high quality photography, seeing what people look like, getting to know who they are. Like, I know what her voice sounds like we know Martha, or at least we think we do.
I have two mottos: learn something new every day, and when you're through changing, you're through. I could have just been a miserable has-been housewife, but I didn't let that happen to myself. And I'm so happy I didn't.
And that's because she did so much work to make sure that happened. But B, it makes that documentary land that much easier, which is you being like, I'm not a Martha fan, but I'll give it a shot. That's like a great marketing lesson, right? First off, like try to make your brand be that way, or you that way as an executive, one of your executives. But also when you do all the brand work, like Martha didn't have any data on whether or not Amy and I knew who she was. But all the brand work that she did landed, you as a viewer, me as a viewer, Meredith as a viewer to this documentary. Especially it helped, you tell a friend. So
also, I just think along those lines too, just documenting along the way, right? Like even if you're not going to use it right then, like documenting special and key moments. I just did something really stupid that I'll admit, which is 2 weeks ago, we were at Adobe Summit and had a huge presence there. It went off without a hitch. It was great. And we did a lot of different activations throughout it. And the second night, we had a nice customer cocktail party. And it was awesome. The second we opened the door at 7 p.m., there was a line of customers in line at the cocktail lounge, which was like the best feeling ever. Usually I'm like, oh, it'll be like an hour and then maybe a couple will pass through, whatever. There was a line. And so it was like the best feeling ever. And they all stayed really late. We kept the bar open. Then we all in Vegas. So we all flooded the casino after. It was like such a great night with our customers. The next day, we had 20 people go to Adobe Summit. And probably 12 to 15 passed through this cocktail party from our team, from CHEQ. The next day I was like, I did not take a single picture last night. And so I was like, hey guys, in our Slack channel, did anybody take any pictures? We hung out with some amazing customers. It was a beautiful party. It was super fun. And I don't know, might want to send him it was great to hang out with you or whatever. No one took a single photo, and which tells you two things. One, it was a huge success. We were all too busy and actually actively engaged, to think about oh, let me take some pictures or whatever. But how embarrassing, right? I'm I can't believe we did that whole thing and we didn't take a single photo. So document also, even if you're not going to use it right then.
I love it. That's a great, and I think document that, this is one of the hey, what AI can't do and can do. 100%. AI can't do that. AI can't take photos of you retroactively in the past.
Apparently neither can I, but I can delegate it next time.
But no, I think it's a great point, is documenting those sort of things. I had an envelope for years that I drew my first business plan on, that I literally drew it on the back of an envelope because I was sitting in a coffee shop. This will be funny to have, and somewhere along the way I recycled it. I probably lost the photo, put it in an old Slack drive or whatever. And I'm like, that was stupid,
It's a bummer when you don't capture those really special things, right? I've had other good client events throughout my career, right? But it was probably the first time there was a line of clients, right at this second the thing opened, they hung out through the end. It was just such a great night. And I don't need photos of that, but it's a bummer not to have any. It's a bummer not to come back to the company and share it because everybody's like, how was Adobe? And I'm like, well, here's some pictures of the booth and this thing. And we had a great party, but there's not a single photo that exists of it.
No, this is a great point, which is your job as a marketer is not always to remind people to buy your stuff. It's just to remind them that you had a good time with them one time. That's the nudge that you need. It's hey, remember when we had fun together at this event? I mean, I think events don't do a good job of this. Think of how many events you've been to, that take a photo with you at the event and then never send you that photo, A, or B, 2 years, they're like, hey, come back to whatever con. And it's like, if they sent me a photo of myself at the event and be like, remember when you had this much fun that you were like clearly into your cups and like, I don't know who you're talking to in this photo, but like, you know, like if you send me that, I'd be like, okay, all
right, I remember now. Or stop using that. What do I have to do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. You can even, this is a great campaign. Someone can steal this. You send the photo and you say, you can either get a discount for the next event, or you can just pay us like $100 and we'll delete the photo forever.
I'm not going to use that one, but somebody might.
Yeah, somebody can.
It's a great idea.
All right, let's talk about a tool that's loved by marketers and trusted by CISOs, and that's CHEQ.ai. How do you think about marketing strategy and content at CHEQ?
It's a great question. It's evolved, right? Like I said, when I started, there was like very low awareness of kind of the problem. And so there was a lot of like trying to get people to care and problem awareness type messaging and marketing. And, you know, the truth is also like until somebody really lives it or like has seen it, is starting to kind of realize the problem with their own eyes, some of that stuff is just so hard. But you want to be the brand that they associate with it when it does become a thing. And so I think some of that early work was really important. But it's changed now, right? Like as there's a much more natural awareness of the problem space. Well, one, there's greater brand recognition for us because we have been doing the work for the past couple of years. It's funny, going back to Adobe Summit, we were there 2 years in a row, and this is not our messaging. But it's funny, this year, a bunch of different marketers pop by and would say, oh, you're the bot people, right? And like, sure, if that's what you remember us as, the bot people, I'll take it. And we have these really fun and creative experiences there. I kind of am a big believer that if you're going to invest all this money to be at a trade show, then like spend the money to make it memorable, right? Like, and to be the company that people want to engage with. And so last year, we always do like a big traffic driver at our booth. So last year, we rented whack-a-mole machines and branded them Whack-a-Bot.
Oh,
and so this is why people remembered us is, you know, they did Whack-a-mole, Whack-a-Bot at our booth all year. And then this year we rented the biggest Space Invaders game that you've ever seen. It's like 2 side-by-side seats and it's like, I don't know, 8 or 10 feet tall. It's ridiculously large. It took up like a third of our booth and we branded it Bot Invaders with like AI in the middle because we detect like AI-driven threats and AI-driven traffic. So people really remembered it. But it is funny, like I think you have to do things to be memorable and to educate the market. I think they can't be like completely like misaligned with your brand. Like we always try to tie it into what we do, even if it's really cheesy, like Bot Invaders. People remember it. But I think the work that we did up front, even 2 years ago through to today, that repetition and just fun, it makes, when there is the problem, it makes you the brand that people associate with it, right? And so like, it is so funny how many people walked up and they're like, the bot people. I'm like, that's so not our messaging, but maybe it should just be our messaging, right? Like, like that's what we want to be, right? Like, fine. You know what? When you have a ton of bots all over your site and analytics and in your advertising and you don't know what to do, just remember CHEQ helps you with that, right? Like, and I think, I don't know, to go back to your strategy, like that's kind of a bit it in a nutshell. It's like an oversimplified version of it, but it's really interesting.
I love how much thought you put into the sort of experiential nature of going to events and making it cool and making it fun.
It becomes hard to top every year. Like our team is like, oh, Whack-a-Bot, how are you ever going to top that? And then we rent these life-size Space Invader thing and they're like, well, you're never going to do that. And I'm like, thanks. Cool. We'll do something. I don't know what next year.
I love it. Did you have a thought there where it's like, maybe we just do the Whack-a-Bot like every year because it was so successful? You know, like I know we always love to go bigger and better in marketing all the time, but there also is power in consistency.
There is, but a few things. I think you have to show up consistently as like I want to be the fun brand that people want to engage with. Our customers are like, oh, like you and one other vendor are the most fun vendors to hang out with. We don't go to anybody else stuff. And I'm like, great, right? Like that's what I want to be. Like when we all go to a trade show together, I want you to want to like hang out with us, right? And so I think we need to show up consistently and like fun, educational, but like somebody that you want to interact and engage with, right? But I also think people want to see like how you kind of reinvent yourself and like make it more interesting. I mean, everybody's like now putting all pressure on for what are we going to do next year? But I think people also want to like see how you figure it out for the next year. I will also say, even if I were to have the same game or something at the booth, which I don't know if I would do, like 2 other vendors came by this year and were like, we're going to rent that next year. And I was like, don't. But also, then I'm not going to do it next year. Like, that was our idea. I'm going to do better next year, right? Someone came by and they were like, can you tell us where you rented that from? And I was like, no, I can't. Like, just Google it, right? Like, no.
That's so lame.
It's ridiculous.
That's super lame.
But I also think at those conferences, a lot of them have an annual following, right? And even if you were to do the same game or something, like we give away little like plushies that are different bots and stuff. And people love it because they take it home for their kids and stuff. You can't give those 2 years in a row, right? Like, because people are like, oh, I already gave my kid that last year. So like, you kind of have to stay a little bit fresh for them to want to re-engage too. And so people don't completely copy you. If anybody our same machines next year, I am going to be like, what? You couldn't think of something.
So this is my axe to grind. And since, I mean, technically it's my show, so I feel like I can grind it for a second here. I get really upset when people do rip-offs of stuff. I don't get really upset at all, actually.
Rip-offs. Take the inspiration, but complete rip-offs.
I always, Meredith knows that I on behind closed doors, I always lament maybe when people like rip off stuff. And I'm like, just make your own thing. Like I've said this before on the show, but it's like everyone does Hot Ones. And then, but for their industry, I'm like, make your own version of Hot Ones. Don't do Hot Ones because Hot Ones is better than your show. Like, so if I want to watch Hot Ones, I'll just watch that. Now, that being said, I do understand the sentiment and there is power in copying something else and doing it. I'm not saying that that's not true, but just how I'm wired is like, I want to go create something new that, you know, could have its own moment rather than just jacking somebody else's.
Well, I also think like, make sure it's relevant for your brand too, right? We tie it in completely to what we do, right? We can help you block bots and invalid traffic and prevent it from hitting your site. It's very similar to the actions you take in Space Invaders. You can prevent those things from your space station or whatever that you're protecting. But sometimes like people come by and they're like, oh, I'm going to do that. And it's like a content syndication company or like, how does that even relate at all to what you do? I don't understand.
Right.
Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's just something that's cool.
Yeah.
It's like cheap stealing your idea. Feels like
I mean, like do it if it works, but also like think about how you make your brand relevant.
Right.
I know how your brand is relevant. 6 trillion signals processed daily and 1 million domains monitored.
It's your homework.
It's crazy.
It is crazy, right? This is like truly, I think, what makes us special and unique. When you monitor that much web traffic, you can really see like trends pretty far out. You can really get a view of what different channels down to the actual like advertiser or social site like is sending the worst traffic to your sites and to different sites. You can really start to get a sense of how different threats interact with different types of companies, like lead gen fraud and like the latest in like how people are evading forms and things. It's like you get this really interesting macro view of what's happening and kind of can see what's about to hit before it affects certain brands and sites and things. And it's really interesting. Certain types of businesses always see threats and fraud and stuff first. Gambling companies, cybersecurity companies, because people are trying to, get around their protection and see if they can hack it. And so when you work with companies like that, it helps you protect the rest of them too, right? Like, because it maybe hasn't hit the B2B SaaS company yet, but it's hit every, gaming site and e-commerce site and whatever. And it is eventually going to catch up with the B2B SaaS company or another type of business. But it's truly like that breadth and the amount that we monitor daily is kind of what makes us special and unique and hard to replicate.
Well, I can tell you what can't be replicated is this podcast interview, because it's been wonderful having you on the show, Amy. And for our listeners, go to CHEQ.ai. Such a cool company, especially, your company wants to save some money out there. You're wasting money on your paid ads. You're wasting money on your traffic. all sorts of crazy stuff.
You're annoying your sales team with a bunch of fake leads that are never
leads.
convert,
They got a junk leads calculator, which is pretty rad that I was messing with. Fake analytics or fake web report, which is pretty cool. So anyways, lots of stuff there. I checked it, check.ai. Amy, final question here. What's one piece of advice that you would give to other marketing leaders when they're thinking about their brand or content?
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that I noticed, hey, and we talked about it, I think, a few different times, right? Like, AI is everywhere. AI is all the buzz. AI is a legit thing that is going to completely transform all of our roles, not just marketing, right? But the way that I see marketers talking about it and using it today is predominantly to help them with productivity, scale content, internal use cases. And I think there are very few marketers that are taking a step back and looking at how it's shaping kind of macro marketing trends and how people are going to engage moving forward, right? I think there's a group of individuals that are starting to realize traditional search is completely evolving, how people find and discover information and brands and things and what matters is starting to shift. I don't know that traditional search is quite going away, but it's definitely evolving, right? And then I think the other thing is we see this every day, but the composition of traffic is completely changing and will continue to completely change, right? There is more automated traffic than ever before. That will continue to be the case. It's not all bad, right? The good bot category is vastly expanding. It used to kind of just be Google search crawlers and some automation tools of yours, but it's now AI agents are going to act on behalf of legitimate customers, and you want to be able to serve them. You want to understand them and make sure that they're legitimate and acting on behalf of a valid customer. But I think that it is going to completely change how people and customers actually interact on our site. Not all customers are always going to show up as human traffic. And it completely changes how you think about experience creation and engagement. And I think not enough marketers are thinking about the macro level trend. How is my brand going to remain discoverable? How am I going to continue to convert new types of buyers and not alienate different types of customers? And yeah, my one piece of advice is I know we're probably all sick of everything AI, but I actually think it's incredibly important to stay really up to speed and think about it beyond productivity.
Fantastic. Amy, wonderful chatting with you today.
So nice to do this.
Yeah, thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome.
Well, that's it for today. I hope you got some good ideas for your B2B content. Thank you for listening to Remarkable. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. Remarkable is created by the team at Caspian Studios, B2B podcast as a service. Caspian also creates fiction series for B2B companies, so if you want a business thriller, you can learn more at caspianstudios.com. Hollywood-style storytelling for B2B. And in today's episode, you heard from myself, Ian Faison, and Meredith O'Neill, senior producer here at Caspian Studios. Remarkable was produced this week by Meredith O'Neill, mixed by Scott Goodrich, and our theme song is Solomon by Falak. Be remarkable and rise above the noise.